Hello, I wanted to do a lesson before we got too deep into the semester about the best way to take notes on your reading and how to get the most out of your reading. Because we're going to be doing a lot of that, this being an online class. So what I'm going to use my iPad to show you a couple of techniques. First is what to look for when you take notes, and then we can talk about a couple of different formats for the notes. So the first thing you want to do when you read is figure out what it is that you're looking for and what are the key things. Now, these can be given in a couple of ways. So this is chapter 16 of your book. Now, typically as a teacher, I'll give focus questions, or sometimes these will be built into the book. And the focus questions are the things you want to look for. Now, if the teacher doesn't give them ahead of time, couple places in textbooks you can look. First is at the beginning of the chapter, they have this chapter preview. Okay, and if you look at these questions, like what was the Afro-Eurasian world trade prior to the era of European exploration? These are telling you what the chapter is going to cover. So by looking at those questions, that can be a help for you to kind of know what you're looking for. The other place typically you can find the focus questions is if you go to the end of the chapter, and they will then have this set of questions. So you can see where it's review the main idea, okay, and making comparisons and connections. And again, it's good to read these before, just so you know kind of what you're looking for and as you take your notes. Now, another really useful thing to do, and I always do this before reading a textbook, is you want to what I call pre-read it, which means spend 3 to 5 minutes just going through the pages, flipping through. And you can take a note of like major subject headings, so like Afro-Eurasian world, or you can look for subheadings. Don't really read the text yet, that's coming later. If you see a map, you can, make some or keep some thoughts in your head on, oh, that might be important, what is going on here? And then as you scroll through, important pictures, so what's Kilwa? Okay, or Mansa Musa, he's going to be important. And then you can even see like when there's a transition, if you'll notice, there's even a focus question here where they're telling you, okay, this is what we're going to talk about. And really just spend your few minutes doing that. You can even, if you own your book, just jot down something, right? There's, for example, this might be about technology. What do I see? Again, another map. Can always a chance to ask some questions, but again, that can come later. So as you go, you just take a look, okay? So as you read, just look at these things, okay? Now, once you've pre-read, then you can go back and start your reading. Now, a couple of tips as you do this, okay? When you take notes, okay, and I'll talk about the techniques in just a minute, but you don't want to write down too much. Note-taking is a little bit like Goldilocks. Too much, too little, just right. Now, one of the common mistakes I've noticed with students is as they read, they will, every paragraph, they will write down something or feel like they have to. And they're doing this as they go. And what tends to happen when you do this, you end up with like 7 pages of notes on a 5-page reading. And that doesn't help you because you want, as you take notes, you want to keep in mind, what do I want to see when I am done here? Like, what's going to help me review? So a technique I recommend is read an entire heading section. So if I were taking notes on this, read trade world in the Indian Ocean. And then maybe you just jot down like, let's say 3 to 4 main points. Sometimes that can come from a paragraph. Sometimes it might be 2 points from one paragraph. Sometimes, nothing from a thing. You have to decide ultimately what helps you, and that's where you use your focus questions. Now, another important thing I've noticed with students is very often they will tend to skip over the map. So what you really want to do is make sure you take a minute, look at what the map is about, okay, what you're seeing. And again, if you have any questions, ask about them. Some books will give you questions on this, okay? If there's a picture, well, why is the picture there? Does it help you advance your understanding? Another technique your book does, okay, which is quite good, is it will give you vocabulary definitions in the bottom. So look these over if you don't know. Very often students tend to just read over text that they don't know. Okay, and that's really the thing. One other thing that's important is when you get to these insert pages on, say, primary sources, I know you have a lot to read and it's easy to skip over them. Don't. Take a look, understand what the source is telling you. Okay, and then you can ask questions of it like, who wrote it? Who wrote it? What's the purpose? The point of view. These are sort of standard primary source questions. Sometimes in the sources, and your book does this, it will give you the questions. Now, I typically don't assign questions like this, but you might want to look them over and see if you could answer them, because that certainly can help. Now, your book also has some other valuable insert pages, ones that I like. These are especially good, the Thinking Like a Historian. And what makes these particularly useful is these combine multiple sources, and so you learn how to weave them into a narrative, because that's a really important historian skill. And so I would recommend not skipping over these, because these are all different points of view. And again, see what you can do with these questions. So then when you're done, you should have a nice set of notes. In the next section of this, I will go over with you what kinds of different formats you could use. So I wanted to show you one of the note-taking techniques. This is one I like. It's called outline notes. So if you're familiar with outlines, you have a Roman numeral up at the top as your main heading. So on page 438, it says the Afro-Eurasian world, and that is a red heading. And then all I do is I read a section between the blue headings, and then I just jot down a few of the key points. So for 3 pages, I ended up with about 3 sections of notes, which then is going to be enough to help me. And one of the key things with this is that you indent. So it's easy to go back and look at things. You don't necessarily need the various letters and numbers, but just indenting helps space it out. Another important thing is asking a question. So I asked in here, why does this matter? And in this particular case, the answer is because this sets up why the Europeans were going to the Americas and what system got disrupted. So that first section is mostly telling you that. And so as you take notes, this is one technique, if you like, that will let you get something reasonable length, but will help you later. So this next technique I wanted to show you is called Cornell Notes. Now, you can do this on binder paper, but there are templates available online. I can put one in Canvas for us. But the idea of Cornell Notes is similar to the outline notes, where you're indenting a lot and you're breaking up how you do your notes. So what you can see is on the left, you have a section for like key terms and headings after you've written your sections here. This is page 441 to 445 of your text, just the beginnings of the European discovery section. So the key with Cornell Notes is how you use the columns. So you can use the left column for the outline heading, like here, but I also use it as a place to put my questions. So as I was reading. Now I color-coded this to make it easier, but you don't obviously have to do that. You can also, of course, put your questions on the right side, although I generally prefer the left side. Also, feel free to double space, leave space between sections, and again, don't write down too much. So your book gave you a lot more detail, but that's not really what you need. You always want to get to the so what. So why does all this matter? So I abridged a lot, put it in my own language, shortening it, numbered when I felt it was relevant. Little symbols like greater than can certainly help, and whatever is going to work for you. Sometimes drawing a diagram can help. Doesn't always have to be text. The key thing, just as with the outline, is don't have what I call for students the wall of text, because that ultimately just does not help. So hopefully this video helps a little bit. Again, you can use this however you like. There again is the entire page of notes, and then if we go up, you can see the outline, and you can compare and see which you like better.